So this offseason, the Broncos made the decision to come in here and bring in Sean Payton to hopefully solve all the different issues that were prevalent last year with the Denver Broncos, with Nathaniel Hackett coming in from Green Bay, with Russell Wilson, of course, being traded for from the Seattle Seahawks. That went poorly. They finished as the 32nd ranked scoring offense in the NFL, and the hope was that Payton would come in and be able to make Russell Wilson the kind of quarterback he was back in Seattle when he found success. And so far, Russell Wilson honestly hasn't had that bad of a start in his first 3 games. The big issue that wasn't as much of an issue last season is the performance of their defense so far. I think all of us witnessed the absolute domination from the Dolphins on Sunday, where they put up 70 points, which was the most points in an NFL game since 1966. I think that also shows you just the explosiveness, the creativity of McDaniels with the Dolphins, all the weapons they have there. The fact that you're able to put up 70 points means that you have to have one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. And the Broncos, on the other hand, had no answers all day long. Tyreek Hill was constantly open. Receivers were constantly open in the middle of the field. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't stop the run. I mean, they couldn't do anything. That's what happens when a team puts up 70 points. The only way they do that is if the defense basically doesn't show up. And that's what happened with the Broncos. And so now here the Broncos are sitting at 0-3 with Russell Wilson still as a quarterback, but this defense has not been able to play well the past few games. They allowed 30-plus points to the Commanders, and so far it's been the biggest weakness on this roster. It wouldn't matter if the Broncos had Patrick Mahomes right now with the way this Broncos defense is playing. So lots of Broncos fans have been discussing the idea of letting go of new defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, who did take over for Hero Evero this past offseason with him going over to the Carolina Panthers. And so far, it has not been a nice start for Vance Joseph. And I think right now, if you look at the situation, if this continues, it wouldn't be shocking to see him get fired eventually. Right now, Sean Payton said he is not going to be fired. And so I imagine that the Broncos this week have basically hit rock bottom, and Sean Payton is doing everything he can to figure out what went wrong at their level. I think when we look at the Russell Wilson trade, it's still impacting the rest of the team. Even though Russell himself has played well, which we'll dig into right here. If you look at his stats compared from 2022 to 2023, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in 2022 with an 84.4 rating. And so far this season, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 99.5 rating, which is the 8th best in the league. So in 3 games, Russell Wilson has looked a lot more like himself back in Seattle compared to last season, where really nothing was working. The Broncos do have a few good, weapons out there in Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Javonte Williams has been playing well at the running back position. But right now, if the Broncos aren't able to fix these defensive issues, it doesn't matter how good Russell Wilson is playing. And so going forward for the rest of the season, I think we really have to wonder if Sean Payton can get this team to a somewhat competitive level, because this is an organization where they haven't really found success since 2015 when Peyton Manning was at the helm, winning a Super Bowl. And since that point, since 2015, the Broncos have not made it to the playoffs. And so they're in a very, very competitive division. They go 5-12 last year, and now they're starting off at 0-3. And so I think the question really is, what's next for this Broncos team? Because right now, it looks really bad. It has only been 3 games, and you really never know how quickly something can turn around. If I remember correctly, last year the Lions were 1-6 and then turn around and win a ton of games to finish the season on a hot note. And if the Broncos can come in here the next couple weeks, I believe they play the Bears and the Jets. If they can win those 2 games and get back on track, there may be some hope here with the Broncos. I think in the moment, it's easy to say, the entire season's done with, everything's over. And if the defense keeps playing like it did, there's no doubt this Broncos team is not going to find any success this season. But you never know what could happen. You never know the changes that could be made here. And there's no doubt Sean Payton is going to be doing everything that is possible to fix the issues that is plaguing this Denver team. And so when you look at the fact that Russell Wilson is going to be here at least for the next couple seasons, if you solely look at contracts, of course they could let him go. But right now, Russell Wilson does have the highest cap hit on the Denver Broncos. And for the next few seasons, if they were to release him, they would suffer a major cap hit. And so I think you have to be at least satisfied with what Russell Wilson is doing, because if he was playing poorly and this defense was playing poorly, you'd say, everything needs to be changed here. And as it goes right now, the Broncos do have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft after 3 weeks. But I think when you look at the issues on the defensive side of the ball, the Broncos would be much better off using a first-round pick on the defensive side than trying to come in and get some kind of quarterback, because I think with the money you're paying Russell Wilson and the money you'd have to pay to release him, is it really worth investing in that kind of quarterback when Russell Wilson has honestly played pretty solid so far this year. If he would have had a top 10 defense so far this season, the Broncos could be 2-1 potentially. But right now, obviously that is not the case. Obviously, everything needs to be changed around here on the defensive side of the ball. And we'll see if in these next few weeks they can make a resurgence, come back from this really, really low point, because it can't get much worse than this. Allowing 70 points. I remember a couple weeks back, I'm a Packers fan. The Packers allowed 25 points to the Falcons, and it felt like, the world was ending. Tons of Packers fans calling for Joe Barry to be fired, and the Dolphins basically put up almost 3 times as many points this week. So it's a tough situation for the Broncos. It's a tough situation for Broncos fans who haven't really seen success or, experienced it since Peyton Manning came around in 2015. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see if these things can get cleaned up. But that is all I have for this one. If you guys want to see more NFL videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below.